Hey folks, friends, family, other people who may be watching this. I'm just going to give a couple of minutes for folks to join up. Let me make sure my headphones are working here. Yep. Got my AirPods going. Proof of keys. That's a Bitcoin mug. So, I wanted to, I've been getting some text messages from friends. I've been getting some Instagram messages. And people are kind of sending me these crazy pictures of the stock market having a historic day, and saying, "Why did this happen? I thought we're in like a recession. I thought this is a global pandemic. Why is the stock market having the best day in memory, like up 10% or so?" And I don't know if you've watched any of my other videos. I kind of said this was going to happen. And also people were texting me telling me like their jobs have been affected already by this. My one of my cousins texted me and said that he already lost his job, or he got laid off basically. There's layoffs happening all over the world. And I'll tell you why that the stock market rallied. And hey everybody that's watching, got quite a few people watching here. So the stock market had like a historic day, and it was because even if Trudeau has coronavirus, even if Trump has coronavirus, what I said in the previous videos was that the Federal Reserve and the Bank of Canada and like the central banks are going to try to like provide stimulus. So they injected $1.5 trillion into the market. I think it was yesterday. And yesterday was like the worst day since the Great Depression, or at least since the 40s. And then today was like the best day in recent memory. I think since the 80s. I think that the best day since the 80s for the stock market. And so if you go and look at the stock market's volatility, it's not supposed to be this. You're not supposed to have the worst day in history, and then the next day the best day in history, and then the next week the worst day in history, even worse than the last week, and then the next day the best day in history. And this happened, the other time that this happened was during the Great Depression. If you go back and look at the stock market charts during the Great Depression, you'd see this kind of wild volatility in the markets. And I'm not saying that we're going to have a depression, because back then they didn't have full-on Keynesian spending and stimulus and bailouts. More so back then, what the problem was liquidity between banks. The same thing that happened in 2008. The banks stopped lending to each other. They couldn't get access to cash. So the Federal Reserve Act it gave the power to the central bank to be able to create money and rescue the markets and provide liquidity. And that's what they're doing right now. And after 2008, when the biggest banks in the world were about to fail, they decided to do transparent stimulus. It was just like right in your face. We're gonna bail out these banks. They're too big to fail. We're gonna socialize the housing market, like do the TARP bailouts where Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac, or was it Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Yeah, the toxic mortgages that were causing these CDOs to go under, causing the banks to stop lending to each other. So right now they've just done that. They've had the biggest day of money printing since 2008. 1.5 trillion, I think it was, in the U.S. And then Trump announced today that he was going to have, like the Federal Reserve announced today that they had an unlimited budget. So they had an unlimited amount of money that they're going to spend on the stock market to try to juice it and try to keep it going. You just fathom that. Like, how does this money have any value if the central banks are just going to print an unlimited amount of it to juice the stock market? I mean, does that affect your life? Or does that make rich people richer? I don't think it affects your life. But what it does is, there are some industries that are getting really hurt by this. So like my cousin said, he's already gotten laid off from his job in the oil industry. Ryan says, just imagine how bad it's going to be in a month. Well, let me provide you the reason why I want to do this update, because here's a scenario that it could work, because the average person is not aware of the money printing. And if you've been watching my videos, maybe you're kind of getting more aware about how money is made and how this is a rigged game, and it's really just designed to make the wealth gap increase, so rich people get more rich. And I'm not talking about rich people like entrepreneurs that work hard and, you know, do honest business and all that. I'm talking about like counterfeit capitalism, corporatism, people who get special grants from the government, banks that have literally a license to print money and then charge you 20% interest. But they don't operate on the same rules as us. We don't have access to that kind of, it's like they're in a separate universe. They get to literally make the money and they take no risk. And then when they get in trouble, they get bailed out by the taxpayer. So they're going to try to do that. And Trump announced that he was also going to take stimulus action for the average person. So he was going to, I watched both of the press conferences. Trudeau also had one today, and Trudeau said the same thing. So Trudeau said that the government was going to provide childcare costs, rent payments. Trump said that he was going to suspend interest on student loans. Trump said that they were going to try to provide health care, like the tests were going to be free. They declared a state of emergency in the United States. That was the big thing. And declaring a state of emergency, actually, like I said in yesterday's video, it's not that like, oh my God, the tanks are going to be rolling through the streets. It's more that they can now just suspend a lot of regulations, because they have a vaccine developed for coronavirus, for COVID-19, the SARS-CoV-2. They have a vaccine for it, but it's not tested. And in order to go through the proper testing channels, it's going to be like 6 months to a year to go through like the proper trials and all that stuff. So not just that, but there's other specific things like doctors from certain states can't provide care to patients from other states, and you can't ship like certain medical things between state borders, and there's all these like rules and regulations in the health industry in the US, and declaring a state of emergency basically suspends all those regulations, so it allows you to just take action, whatever's needed to stop a pandemic. And so the stock market reacted really well to that, but like I said, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing that the stock market went up the best day in history, because that just means that there's something going on. There's like tremors in the system here. The volatility is just like historic levels. It's the same as the Great Depression. And you see that kind of wild swings up and down in when there's really something serious happening, something bad. So we know that something bad is happening, and they're trying to pull out all the stops. Like Donald Trump said that they were going to buy as much oil as they possibly could because the price is cheap. They were going to fill it to the top. They were going to fill it right up. So the one thing that I did, I like the way that Trump chose to partner with Google in the US for the testing kits. So they're taking measures there to get people to be able to go online and put their symptoms in, and then they'll do drive-through testing like they were doing in South Korea and China. So you don't have to go to the hospital. There'll be stations set up in the US where you can just drive up in your car, you get a swab, and then within hours the test results will be texted to you. So Google's got like 1,000 engineers right now building a website that will do GPS tracking and like show you where to go and all this stuff. The problem is, and this is both with Canada and the US, they're still trying to prevent fear. They're still trying to prevent panic. But as you can see, if you went to the grocery store today, like Daniela just joined, Daniela sent me some videos of, she went to Costco yesterday, and it was like a lineup around the building, and all the milk was gone, and all the chips were gone, and all the French fries were gone, like the meat section. My friend Anton sent me a message from Montreal. The meats were all gone. So, you know, that's just an example of our just-in-time supply chain. It's not like there's a big warehouse in the back full of all the stuff. They get the shipments in, and whenever there's a panic like this, there's not enough. So yeah, if you have gone to your local grocery store, like my wife went today to the Strathroy grocery store to pick up some some stuff and like there's no toilet paper left. So it's I don't know why that is, but yeah, toilet paper is a hot commodity. So the thing that I don't like about both of the conferences, the press conferences today that Trudeau and Trump did, was that they're still trying to put this image out there like everything's fine and everybody can get tested. Don't worry about it. We have enough testing. We're going to do whatever it takes to keep Canadians safe. We're going to do whatever it takes to keep Americans safe. There's more than enough test kits, all this stuff, right? And so they're putting out that message, but both Trump and Trudeau have been likely infected with coronavirus. Both of them are not tested, and both of them are claiming that their doctors have said that you shouldn't get tested. And this is a signal. Like, this is pure propaganda that they're doing. This is like signaling to the public that, look, I'm this big important person. I'm the Prime Minister of Canada, and I'm not getting tested because I don't have any symptoms, so you shouldn't need to get tested either. But everybody can get tested. We have enough test kits for everybody, but I'm not getting tested because the doctor told me not to get tested, even though my wife has coronavirus and my 2 children probably also have coronavirus, but I'm going to obey my doctor's orders. I mean, it's just total bullshit. We're not that stupid. Like, Canadians and Americans are not idiots. We can tell what you're trying to do. You're trying to prevent people from actually getting a test and trying to get tested. And you're trying to prop yourself up as the shining example of like, well, I probably have it, but I'm not going to get tested because I don't have any symptoms. So it's a total bullshit message, because on the one side, they're saying like they've got all this great advice. They're taking precautions. Like, we're not going to have what happened in Italy happen here because we've taken action. We've stopped schools and all that stuff. And I'm glad they're taking those actions, but if they were really good, if they were really wanted to stop this thing in its tracks, if they really had the capacity to test everyone, they should do what South Korea did and other countries that have much less resources than us. They're testing everybody and they're making sure that people don't have it, because in Trudeau's situation, his wife has coronavirus confirmed. It's an extremely contagious disease, or virus. It's an extremely contagious virus. He likely has it. I don't think there's any chance that he doesn't have it. They know that if he gets tested and he's positive, then it's going to send more crashing signals to the market, and it's going to also affect people because they're going to panic. Oh my God, the Prime Minister has coronavirus, and it'll be all over the headlines. It'll be bad for the supply chain. It'll be bad for the stock market on Monday when it opens up. So they're actually sending this signal, which is a bad thing to do, because the right thing to do is what the other countries are doing. You want to actually test if you've been in contact with somebody so that you know if you have it or not. Because if you do have it and you're asymptomatic, you can just be going about your days spreading it to people. And of course, Justin Trudeau is able to self-quarantine on his doctor's advice. Like, yeah, right. Like, the average person is not able to do that. I've got a friend that just came back from Florida, and like on the announcement, on the press conference, they said like they're shutting down flights to pretty much everywhere. They recommend all events get canceled. They recommend they're recommending that anybody that comes back from any foreign country goes into a 14-day quarantine, a self-quarantine. They're telling people to cancel vacations, don't go on cruises. So they're taking all this drastic action, which is going to have long-term economic effects, but they're saying that they're going to do whatever it takes so that Canadians don't have to worry about this quarantine, how it's going to affect them, like childcare costs, healthcare costs, elderly care costs, all that stuff, which is great, like economic stimulus. Suspending taxes and all that stuff is gonna be what they have to do, but they're leading by example with a dangerous false message, and they're spreading disinformation, because that's not the way to stop coronavirus, because it's not worth taking the risk of having it and not getting tested and then spreading it to everybody. So I think Justin Trudeau is taking a really dangerous gamble here by doing this charade about I'm not getting tested when his wife has it, and he likely has it. And he's of the age group where it's not a big deal. He probably will get over it. So I just don't know why he's not getting tested. It would be a great example of like, this is how you really take precautions, because if he has it and he's asymptomatic, and you are contagious when you're asymptomatic. That's proven. And that was another thing that the Canadian health minister said in that thing that was just also dangerous. So they say dumb things like masks don't help you and all that. So basically the two press conferences they had today were to pump the stock markets. That's really all it was. There was some really good stuff announced, like they're going to try to take action to help people, but I don't know how that's logistically gonna happen. We'll see. I mean, we've entered a new paradigm here, guys. It's like, this is gonna be a different way of living for a little bit, for sure. Like, your kids are gonna be home for 3 weeks. It's like Christmas vacation, the second Christmas vacation, but like there's gonna be layoffs, and it depends on how quickly they're able to get the stimulus out to people and to businesses. So it could hurt. Like, just make sure you have a cushion, because imagine what happened at the grocery store, when people start to lose their jobs and stuff. That could happen at the banks. People could go try to all take money out at the banks all at once, and then they realize that, the public will realize that your money that is in the bank doesn't actually exist. If everybody tried to take out the money that was in the banks would shut down. They will shut down, because the money, they only have about 5%, or actually it's about 8% of the money in the accounts in actual money. And if everybody tried to take out money, just like at the grocery store, when everybody tries to go get meat and milk at the same time, they don't have enough, they're out of it. That's going to happen too with the banks. If there's a panic and they call this a run on the bank, and if everybody tries to go get money out, then you'll realize they don't have any. They're going to just say, just like there's no toilet paper, they're going to say there's no money, because literally the money is almost worth as much as the toilet paper. It's just paper. But people will flight to cash. So people have texted me, why did the stock markets go up? What should I do about it? And I still think this is a good time to take some money off the table. Hopefully people did today on this crazy bounce, because it's probably one of the last times that you're going to have an opportunity to like shelter yourself from the coming storm of the stock markets. Again, like, it's all about risk management. I'm not saying like sell everything, never go back into the stock market. I'm just saying, like, now that it's back up, it's like you got another second chance to take your money out. Bill Gates just resigned from Microsoft's board. Insiders have been selling stocks for a couple of months, like at a really accelerated pace. CEOs have been leaving Fortune 500 companies at an accelerated pace. Boeing just took a $15 billion cash loan. Like, there's some serious hurt coming here. And if you're reliant on the government to make good on their promises, I mean, I wouldn't. I hope they can do what they're signaling to us that they're going to want to do. I hope Trump and Trudeau are going to be able to suspend interest payments for people and just send UBI style airdrops out to people's bank accounts and everything. But that's signaling. That's signaling. And if you look at what they're doing, not what they're saying, I don't think they're going to be able to pull that off. I think this is just like, it's just like a pump and dump conference that happened for the stock markets, because Trump likely has been in contact with, he's sent photos of people that have coronavirus now. They've been confirmed with coronavirus, multiple people. There's multiple people in Washington that have been confirmed, like politicians, with coronavirus, and they're in quarantine right now. So it's likely that Trump's got it, or at least should get tested, but he's saying, oh, my doctor's telling me I shouldn't get tested. Trump's of the age group where it's going to hit, likely, that's like 15% mortality rate in his age group. So it's just really dangerous to be pushing this nonchalantness about getting tested, while at the same time signaling to the stock market, like, we got enough masks, we got enough hand sanitizer. We got enough tests. We're so great. We're gonna buy all the oil. We're gonna pump the stock markets with unlimited amounts of money. It's just insane. So, yes, there was a crazy rise in the markets today. And like I said in the previous videos, if you moved it to cash, and you may miss 10-20% in the stock markets. But it's about risk management. Like, do you want to gamble your retirement on a 10 or 20% move in the stock market? Like, that's unheard of for this kind of volatility to be happening in the stock market. This is like historic trading. So I still recommend that if you can, if it's not too late for you, to try to withdraw some of your money into cash. And I don't mean physical cash. So a friend of mine messaged me saying, like, oh, I'm trying to get out of cash, but I have an RRSP. Do I want to withdraw it out of the RRSP because then I have a tax event? I should clarify, I don't mean like withdraw it out of your RRSP or your 401k or your Roth IRA or your tax-free savings account. Don't withdraw the money from that. Just move it to a money market account. Because a money market account is still a product that's within that tax vehicle, so you're not going to incur any tax hits or anything by moving from a mutual fund into a money market fund. And that money market is just basically you're getting the 0.25 basis interest or whatever. It's just you're basically getting nothing, but it's just sheltering you from any volatility up and down. But what I kind of predicted earlier in the week has kind of all come true in terms of the stock markets. I thought we were going to have crazy crash and then a big bounce, and which would be another time to get out. And then what I think is going to happen is this week coming up could be a sideways week, unless something insane happens this weekend where Trump gets diagnosed and goes into, like, it has to be intubated or something like that, where he's like put in unconscious and put on a breathing machine or something insane. If something insane like that happens, or I heard rumors that New York City was going to quarantine, and on Sunday there was going to be a quarantine of New York City, and that would be huge. That would be crazy for the stock market. The cases are accelerating. The reported cases are accelerating in the U.S. And as of now, there's more cases outside of China. So China kind of got it under control. And at the top of the infections in China, it was like we've passed that now outside of China. So it's worse globally than it was in China. So that's why this hospital systems are overwhelmed in so many countries right now. And I guess, it's not the worst. It's not the worst. We're not in the worst case, right? We're kind of just in this weird place where schools were just canceled and all of our sports teams and stuff are not playing right now, and we're seeing all these crazy news come out from different places in the world. But we just saw the stock market go way back up, like as if nothing happened, and we're hearing like our government's telling us, don't worry, we're going to pay for all your childcare, we're going to suspend your interest rates, we're going to bail you out of this, we're going to do whatever it takes. So in that way, that's a lot better than most countries, right? It's true. Like we're in a better position. So again, maybe we don't have the crazy depression. Maybe we don't have. Maybe the banks will be able to print enough money to bail the banks out and the companies that are getting hurt and the citizens. So we may just get $2,000-$3,000 just lump sum checks to do whatever you need to do, right? Like to subsidize your job that you lost, or your suspension in pay, or childcare, or whatever. And they're trying to play this balancing act right now about, we don't have outbreaks happening in Canada, really. I mean, we've got some local spread happening, but it's not epidemic level outbreaks like in certain areas where it overruns the health system. So they're trying to keep the economy going just enough, and contain the virus just enough, because it's true, it's not like a devastating virus for everybody. So they're playing this game of risk management, where what they should do is shut the schools down, ban everything, everybody gets tested. They do case isolation, where if you're infected, they go and contact everybody you've been in touch with over the last 7 days, and they contact them, they test them. That's what they should be doing. That's what they did in South Korea, and that's how to stop this. But they're trying to make it so that they're doing enough to stop the thing from coming in and spreading, but not too much so that it just totally shuts down the economy. And that's why they're pushing this disinformation and this fake complacency about, if you don't have any symptoms, you don't need to get tested. That's total bullshit. If you don't have symptoms, but you're living with someone who has coronavirus, it's not a suggested self-quarantine. It's like 99% chance you have it, and you should also be in quarantine. So that's the dangerous part. That they're trying to play this. They're trying to thread the needle here between completely stopping it and completely wrecking the economy. And it's not an envious position to be in, but I think that they're spreading a dangerous. They're playing a dangerous game by making people think, just like earlier on in this thing when they made people think this is just the flu, and all you got to do is wash your hands. The dangerous game they're playing now is signaling to people that you don't need to get tested if you don't have the symptoms, because that's why this is such a crazy disease. And I just don't understand. It's so irresponsible. It's so irresponsible, because people are going to be infected, and they're going to be going with their family. They're going to be going playing hockey or something like that and spreading it around, because our leaders are literally saying, oh, my wife has it, but I don't have symptoms, so I don't need to get tested. But everybody can get the test. Anybody who wants it can get the test. We have more than enough tests. But only if you're already presenting with symptoms, is basically what they're saying, both in the U.S. and Canada. So that was like a coordinated message that went out, and that's the only hole I can see in this situation. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'm not going to be on too much longer today. I just wanted to give that quick update about what those two conferences were about and why the stock market reacted like that. So hopefully I explained why the stock market reacted like that, and why it was fully expected to happen like that, and why there's likely going to be another big crash, because markets do this. Markets react on emotion, and then they bounce, and then if the fundamentals haven't changed, they dump and they continue the slide. And likely, the fundamentals haven't changed about how this virus is going to impact local economies, and the global economy, and the national economies. The fundamentals haven't changed there. The only thing that has changed is that they've announced stimulus for the average person, and that may change it enough in our favor to stop a depression level crash again, a continued crash. But as I said in the videos before, the markets were already overheated. They were already overvalued. There's this war, this oil war happening between Russia and Saudi Arabia right now. OPEC and Russia are kind of battling, and that's crashed the price of oil. It's kind of rising today, I think, because Trump announced they were just going to fill the rafters with oil. They were going to buy all this oil. So I think that's why the price of oil is rising today. Gold and silver are both down today. But again, that's what happened in 2008. Adam said, I so agree with you. And he said, so agree. So he really agrees, because he said, I so agree with you. Trudeau and Trump are idiots, and they're playing such a stupid game. They should be copying South Korea. Yeah, and to Trump's credit, I don't like giving him credit, but to his credit, he's partnered with Google on providing the technology to make this app to get tested and do the drive-through testing, which is probably the best way to do that. And Trump basically held a press conference to pump the stock market, because he had all these select CEOs from Walmart and the medical company that's developing the kits, and the companies that are developing hand sanitizer and all that. And he had them all come up and say something, and then he had Mike Pence go up and pat his back and tell America how great Trump's been and how smart he is and all this crazy bullshit. So like it was just this. It was whatever. It worked because most people see through the bullshit, like the Trumpisms, but like actually what they announced was good. It was decent, and Trump seemed to take it a little more serious. But yeah, again, we'll see how that works out because they're threading the needle here, and if there's, it's likely that it's spreading, and by making people think they don't need to get tested if they don't have symptoms, it's just the same as saying this is just the flu. You don't need to worry about it. Just wash your hands. I mean, it's the same narrative. So again, how to protect yourself here is just don't go nuts and buy all the toilet paper in the grocery store, but you should always think about being prepared for anything, and this is something to definitely be prepared for. I tried to get prepared for this a month and a half before everybody else knew about it. I placed an order of like freeze-dried meats and berries and vegetables and stuff at the beginning of February, because I didn't want to be like, I wanted to have a supply, and I wanted to have a supply of stuff, and like I placed the order early before everybody else even was aware, and I'm still waiting for my order, and they're having trouble. The supply chain is just totally disrupted, and I got my orders in before all this, so I'm kind of in the same boat as everybody else. But today we went out and got some meats. Like my wife went to the meat store and got some frozen meats and stuff. So just get a little bit of extra food. I mean, I wouldn't go nuts on the toilet paper because I'd rather have the food, right? I think the toilet paper is just like it's a psychological thing. It's just you see toilet paper being sold out everywhere else, so you just think like you panic and you're just like, that's what I need. I need the toilet paper. I gotta go get toilet paper. And it's true because here in Strathroy, our little town here, the toilet paper was sold out at the grocery store. My dad said, "Is it a coincidence that the show Pandemic comes out on Netflix December 29th?" That's the kind of conspiracy talk I'm into, Dad. Yeah, I did watch that show actually after this all started, and that's kind of where I learned some of this. So I do recommend people watch that show. It talks about the medical system, and it talks about how we're not prepared for a pandemic, and a state of emergency would need to be declared, and what would happen if it hit New York City, what would happen if it hit India, what would happen. They actually call out, like, in that Pandemic show, that the next big coronavirus, would be from bats or something like that. They go into a bat cave and they test birds and stuff like that. So, I mean, this isn't something that we weren't aware of and we didn't know was coming. The show Pandemic was all about previous epidemics and pandemics and how we predict that there's going to be one and how to stop it and how we're not prepared. And it was kind of like meant to wake people up. And man, yeah, they were right on the money with that because it happened like literally that month. So if anyone has any questions, again, just type them in the chat. I will get to them. But I just want to finish off with what I was titled this video was how Bitcoin had one of the worst days I remember in recent history. And if anybody's out there is holding Bitcoin, or you're watching this live, or you watch it later and you have Bitcoin, I mean, I always say when I tell people to buy Bitcoin that set yourself at an amount that you're okay with losing, like 5% or no more than 5%, unless you're just nuts like me and you want more exposure to it. But set yourself to an amount that if you lose it, if it crashes, if something happens, if the technology, like if the aliens come down and they have this new technology like from Star Trek where they can just make everything that you want from atoms, and like there's nothing is scarce in the world anymore. We have the cure for everything. There's no need for money anymore or whatever. That would make Bitcoin worthless. So obviously, if there was like a quantum supremacy, it was achieved by like a rogue nation or something like that, and they decided to attack all the banking cryptography and all the internet cryptography, like Bitcoin is part of that, so that would also make Bitcoin go down in value quite a lot, probably to zero. So I mean, there is like a slight chance that Bitcoin could be disrupted, but even those things, like, we can fix that. We can always fix the hashing algorithm or the cryptography or whatever, so it would come back. But basically all I'm saying is like Bitcoin is, even though it's 10 years old and it's meant to be a hedge against this type of thing, against what just literally happened, where the US announced that they're going to print an unlimited amount of money. That is not a way to store value. That is not a way to keep that's not a way to keep your value, your currency's purchasing power over time. Because if there's $10 trillion of money, right, and you've got 100,000 of them for your whole life, you saved up and you're retired, and you got 100,000 in your bank account, and then they print 10 more trillion dollars, that 100,000 that you got now is worth only $50,000 of buying power. So you still have the $100,000 in your bank account, but now prices have changed and the supply of the currency has changed so much that everything else has kind of been affected, and that $100,000 you worked your whole life for is now only buying you $50,000 worth of stuff. So gold and traditionally real estate and like things like Bitcoin are hedges against that type of long-term inflation. Bitcoin is not a hedge against a depression or like a 9/11 type event. It's not a hedge against a panic-driven, like once in a decade, once in every couple of decade events like this, where we've had the most volatile days in, like, it's top 10 in history, volatile days, what we just had in the stock markets. And in the Canadian stock market yesterday, that volatility was the most that it's been since I think it was 1940, like World War II. So Bitcoin is a scarce asset, just like gold, where there's only so much of it. Programmatically, Bitcoin is locked at 21 million. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. There's never going to be like an event where the banks all get together and say, we're going to print 21 more million Bitcoin, like what they just did with announced today to stimulate the economy after the coronavirus pandemic sort of like freaked the whole thing up. That can't happen with Bitcoin. That can't happen with gold. Like, there's no way that somebody's just gonna start making more gold from nothing. I mean, it's the laws of the universe, right? And Bitcoin is kind of on a similar path. It's secured by actually the laws of the universe as well, because there's more. How the way the cryptography works, to get a little weird on you, is it's a private key and a public key. So using cryptography, the SHA-256 and I can't remember, ECDSA or whatever algorithm, whatever it is, like there's enough combinations of addresses that there is atoms in the universe, basically. So the chance of somebody guessing or using quantum computing to actually like brute force your Bitcoin address is like the chance. It's actually like impossible. You would need more time than there is atoms in the universe to do that. So Bitcoin is really safe in terms of its technology, but it's not a hedge against this type of insane market that we've just had. So yesterday it was nuts. We went down from like $7,000, $7,500 to like $3,700, and that was the worst day that I can remember. But then it bounced back up within like a 30-minute window to about $5,600, and man, it was nuts. But like, let me say that there is no stops. There's no circuit breakers in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the actual embodiment of a free market. In the stock market, it's manipulated. In the stock market, like every time there's a drop of 5%, they just throw the circuit breakers and gives people a chance to pause for 15 minutes, and then trading can resume. And then if it goes down another 7%, it goes to 12 or 13, negative 13%, the circuit breakers are hit again, and it's just like, okay, here's another break. And then if it goes down, I think it's to 20%, it's just turned off. It's just done for the day. You go home and you can't trade anymore. And that's not how it works with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a 24/7 market, so there's nobody there to bail you out. There's nobody there to rescue you. There's nobody in charge of it. There's no circuit breakers. So there's no inflating of the supply. So it's a hedge against what's happening right now in the market. So I would still suggest that you buy dips of Bitcoin, you buy dips in gold, you move into cash into a money market account. Um, like, still the advice I gave yesterday is the same. Cut out any unnecessary expenses and just hope that the government does provide stimulus. And I know it's going to be rough for people who can't afford to stay home with their kids, and it's going to be tough. So hopefully they get that stimulus out soon, and then you just got to do some learning about how to hopefully, like, forget the money stuff for now, but like the health side, like, let's hope that this doesn't become an outbreak here and that we've taken enough action. And if you want to sort of like recover from this afterwards, then you want to have cash to be able to invest, and you want to have the proper risk management skills. So I'm going to give you some advice on like books to read while you're home with your kids, if you're not homeschooling them. So a good one would be Tony Robbins' book, Unshakable. That's a good one. So go through that. It's got some good exercises for you to how to think about if you have no money at all, how you can start investing, and how you can think about like taking advantage of this situation financially. So yeah, I would say Tony Robbins' book Unshakable is really good, and that's an assignment for you. I'm about to sign off for this video. If anybody has any more questions before I go, see Pam joined. Hello, Pam. Pam is a massage therapist, so she's gonna have to start wearing nitrile gloves when she's giving massages, and masks. You gotta wear a full head mask. I got a Tyvek suit, actually. I'll give you a Tyvek suit, Pam. You can wear that when you give people a massage with some nitrile gloves on. And I just saw, actually, the Trump announced the bill. The bill came in that they're going to do the stimulus for people. So again, like, lots of signaling there that they're going to bail us out. So in the previous financial crisis, there was a little bit of stimulus for people, but most of the bailouts was the banks. They're going to spend about $300 billion so far. I think they announced that they're going to spend on Americans. Canadians, I think we got like $3 billion or something like that from Trudeau today. But that'll probably increase as the economic effects of this hit people real bad. But yeah, that's about it, guys. Hopefully this is going to be fine. And if you didn't move out of the stocks yesterday and you didn't get out today, and just look for days to get out when you can kind of go to safety. And cash is safety right now. And I'm slowly buying dips on the stock market, but I'm like just like 0.5% or 0.25% chunks of my net worth is going into the stock market just on dips. But I'm kind of like high risk, so most of it is out. I'm sitting mostly in cash. I don't want to be exposed to this crazy volatility right now. I did buy Bitcoin again yesterday because, like I said, I haven't bought since 2018, but when it dropped so much, I was like, I got to get some of that. And I do think there's going to be another buying opportunity for Bitcoin. If something crazy happens this weekend and an outbreak happens and New York City gets declared a state of emergency and there's a mandatory quarantine in New York City or something like that, and that really shakes the stock market, or Trudeau gets confirmed with coronavirus and he's in a hospital or something like that, something like that could shake the markets. There's anything right now at this point could shake the markets, and we would see a major crash again. So I buy dips, basically. I buy dips on Bitcoin, because if that happens in the stock market, Bitcoin's going to go down again, probably into the 4,000s or 3,000s even. So slowly average in if you want Bitcoin. Gold is probably going to do that a little bit too, because in 2008, before gold like gold and Bitcoin both are like hedges, right? And gold in 2008 acted as the hedge against the markets, and before it acted as a hedge, a store of value, it crashed. It was like down like 20% or something like that. So the same thing happened with Bitcoin. So gold and Bitcoin are both going down right now slowly, but long term, this crazy stimulus stuff is actually good for assets that have scarcity, because value is scarce, and that's just the one other thing I'd leave you with. Value is scarce. So hopefully everybody's able to deal with the next few weeks, and again, feel free to send me a message. Lots of people have been sending me messages asking me for advice and stuff. Hopefully you guys find this helpful. Yeah, I'll be on Messenger, and I'll be on Instagram and stuff. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, like finance wise, or I got time all day long to follow this coronavirus stuff. So if you have any questions about it, like just feel free to send me a message. All right. Stay safe, folks.